Hello all, Rick here with my spoiler-full review of Picard's Season 3 Episode 7, Dominion. Man, am I glad this title was not aired months in advance, but aside from the obvious spoiler reference to The Dominion, the name has a lot more relevance to the themes of this episode. So, things are beginning to come to a head in this part. Frontier Day looms, and the Titan is still on the outside. Both Vadic and Picard's teams are running out of time, it seems. The episode opens with an attempt from 7 of 9 to reach out to her old friend contacts, and it's alluded to that this is not the first attempt to do so with others. This time the target is Captain Tuvok. But the scene's otherwise hopeful and joyful reunion is clouded not by the Vulcan's emotional distance, but the uncertainty that they are talking to the man himself. We had heard from Ro that many would-be allies in Starfleet are not exactly compromised, but those surrounding them are, keeping them in the dark. Little things like LaForge's last episode saying he was protesting Frontier's fleet formation dropped hints at the levels of Starfleet's infiltration. Now we see it firsthand. The back and forth was egged on by my own desire to see Tuvok return to the show. I wanted to believe it was him so much that when the first evidence was presented of him claiming who he seemed to be, I believed him, but another curveball was thrown when Seven found a hole in his facade. What has happened to the real Tuvok, then? Well, he is alive, that much is clear, and I suspect he is being maintained as a source of cover for his imposter. It brings home the point that, the Titan crew is isolated from those who would otherwise help by a web of ignorance from the changelings' weave. Overall, this episode is a power play for control. The Titan receives the boarding party of Vadic and control over it begins. Vadic is captured yet remains calm, and the ensuing discussion wrests Picard's moral centre away from Starfleet once again. Data and Lore are locked in a struggle for dominion over the golem frame and the systems of the Titan, and Jack begins to somehow exert his will on others through these manifesting powers. There is a lot of attempts to seize control, a lot of struggles for dominion. As mentioned, this episode also sees more interactions with Data Lore. And although he gets some great moments, a large part of his portrayal is there for Geordi to address something that has been missing since Data's departure. Of course, Picard and Data had a connection and a solid friendship, but if I had to point out his best friend, it would have been Geordi LaForge. Geordi was deprived of a true farewell in Nemesis, as all were in the heat of a battle, and Data made his sacrifice in the moment. But Picard got to receive his closure when he met with the stored mind of Data in Season 1 of this series, while Geordi was left with his farewells unsaid. It's a poignant moment when he takes the time to appeal to Data Lore and takes the second chance to release 22 years of unsaid goodbyes and how much their friendship meant to him. So, speaking of Data and Lore, we get to see Lore in full control for most of the show, with him connecting to the Titan's security systems and taking over them. I doubt he has entirely the full story of what's even going on, but I doubt his motives go beyond, well, Data's friends want this, so I'm going to break their plans. With the two dominant personalities within being Data and Lore, he states he simply wants to survive and knows full well that if it came down to a choice, the crew would delete Lore if they could. Understandable, because Lore has ever attempted to sow discord and chaos whenever he could, even when attempts at cooperation were available. Vadic also gets much time in the spotlight here, and we get to see into her personality far more than in prior episodes, even delving into her origin. Now, she always seemed unhinged and erratic before a changeling, and now we know why. She and 9 others were captured during the course of the Dominion War, and imprisoned on Daystrom Station for research and experimentation. It seems Starfleet tried to break them and form them into agents for the Federation, or simply tried to learn extensively about their abilities. It was not the Dominion that made these shapeshifters into specialized humanoid duplicators, but Starfleet. This broke Vadic, and now her life is bent towards revenge as she shared her newfound aptitude among others in the Great Link. The scars of her past are carried with her in memories, taking on the appearance of her torturer and even whistling as she did. Something like this confirms everything the Dominion fears from the Solids and justifies its existence in their eyes. While it does not excuse the atrocities committed on them, let's not forget the countless millions slaughtered by the Dominion too, and their brutal prison camps. It's not a justification, but in many ways Vadic is a living wound of that conflict, born of the ugliness in the depths of both sides. Even her own changeling superiors seem to be borderline disgusted at what she has become and are leveraging their control over her, although the Dominion knows no other way to remain in power. The revelation too hurts Picard, and once again the Federation is found not measuring up to his standards, as it did years ago when they failed to help the Romulans. Painful too must have been the decision to execute Vadic, despite the qualms raised from both Beverly and Picard over the decision. But in the end, they're acting to save their own flesh and blood son. Earlier on too, Beverly raised the ethical implications of using some form of biological weakness in the changelings to target them, while Geordi, the practical engineer, did not see the qualms at first, and Picard considers it all hypothetical until it isn't. Moments like this have been laced throughout the show. Shaw's comment on weaponizing a few zealots in the process of Section 31's infection, and these discussions are not only moral ones, but ones of potential consequences. The episode ends on an even tenser note than when the USS Titan was sinking, with Vadic now in control of the bridge. Suffice to say, Picard and Beverly really need to return to the holodeck aiming program, because they really missed Vadic that much as she slithered between them, but the plot armor was unusually strong here, to the point of it being noticeable. With the Titan only operating on a skeleton crew and LaForge and Data operating on a ship they are unfamiliar with, I think gaining back control might be a bit of an issue. Plus now Vadic has a bridge full of hostages and returns to her more theatrical presentations. Jack Crusher's mysterious voices get some more definition brought to them, with Picard learning that his remains indeed contained an anomaly that may have been misdiagnosed as Irumodic syndrome, or maybe caused it. This trait is clearly present in Jack too, and the focus of their goals. Despite Picard's assertions that they simply want his and Jack's DNA to create a changeling copy of him, complete with accurate genetic samples, well, I think this is a red herring. Vadic neither confirmed nor denied it, and seemed amused by his attempted unravelling of her plot, supplying her own queries and prodding to test their actual knowledge. Sure, it may have been one element, but my gut is telling me there is more to this yet. Jack's ability seems to have progressed to full-on telepathy, sensing Sidney LaForge's thoughts, but entering this fugue state when he does so. It comes into play later on, when he seems to telepathically connect to Sidney and enables her to operate in tandem with him to take down their assailant. The voices call out for connection and seeking out others, so this ability seems to be just that. Very collective hive mind of him, and some form of organic version of what the Borg have would be ideal for enforcing dominion over others. I suspect this is the goal of the Changelings, revenge on the Federation, and securing themselves through control as the Dominion ever did. The themes of control are all throughout this episode, and none of these are resolved. Vadic is captain of the Titan A, but the crew are still alive and many are still free. Data has usurped Lore once more, but Lore is not gone. And Jack took control or joint control of Sydney for a moment, and that freaked them both out because it's still not understood. With the episode ending on a promise of answers next week, this episode was an engaging watch with captivating performances from all and raw emotion on display, especially from LeVar Burton, Patrick Stewart, and Amanda Plummer. And that sums up my review of Episode 7, Dominion, and I look forward to answering a question that has been on our minds since the series' airing. Who is Jack Crusher? Thanks again for watching. I've been Rick, and goodbye.